guys, it's me, Laretha from So Unique Sewing and Alterations, also Anne's Boutique. And today I am creating the kimono um, with the cowl sleeve, or whatever you call it. A lot of people call it caftan, but kimono, caftan, whichever one you want to call it. So I'm going to create that one with the cowl sleeve. And as you can see here, I've already started drawing with my diaphragm. So what you're going to need is about 3.5 yards of fabric. You're going to need your straight ruler. You're going to need some chalk. And you're also going to need, let me just grab my tools here. And if you don't have any of these they'll help you to shape your sleeve and to help you to shape your neckline. And so what I did was I folded my fabric long ways, and I folded it in half. So after you've done that, you'll get your width. It'll be your width and your length as far as the kimono or caftan, whichever one you decide to call it. And you'll also need a pair of scissors. And as you can see in my background here, I have my serger already ready with red thread, and I also have my machine threaded with red thread as well. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is I'll show a picture, post a picture of the kimono that I wore that I've already created with the cowl sleeve. So what you're going to want to do is take your measurements, and that's going to be your right here at the center of your neckline, from the front all the way down to how long you want it. And let's see, mine is going to be about 44. Yeah, about 44 inches long in the front. So that'll bring it down. If I'm 5 feet, so it brings it down to my ankle. Okay, and so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and trace out your neck after you've measured your neckline here. And mine is going to total, let's see, okay, so mine is let's see, 5.5. So that'll be 10, 11 around the neck, okay? And so then you're gonna measure your sleeve, the shoulder here. And what you wanna do, you always wanna measure right here along your neck all the way to this bone here, the joint on your shoulder. And so you just want to see how long that is, and normally it's about 5 inches long. And so I'm going to just go ahead and measure mine out, which is about 4.5. And the reason why I'm doing 4.5 is because I'm going to go ahead and add the hole for the sleeve. And so you want to go ahead and measure your sleeve, and normally it runs about 8. And if you just excuse all the markings, because I don't want my armhole, can you come just a little bit closer? You don't want your armhole to be too big. So as you can see here, mine is about 11. So that's going to end up being around 22 or so. So around 20, okay? And so after you've measured that, let's see. I'm just going to take off my sleeve here because I wanted it to be the right amount of space that I'll need. So 20 is about right. It'll go right up to my shoulder. So since it's going to go right there, and then I have a little bit more space in between there, excuse me while I put my jacket back on. So you want to have just a little bit more breathing room for your sleeve. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from this armhole here, and I'm just going to go around in a circle, as you can see. And then it goes up to 12. So that's the length, that's the circumference of it that I want it to be, which is 11, and it's going to be 22. So your depth doesn't have to be that much. So my depth is about 3 because I don't want my sleeve to be too snuggle. So that's 3 inches there. And so now what I'm going to do is, since I've already marked, and as I said, excuse all of the marking. So when you draw your line for your shoulder, you want to make sure that you slant it, because your sleeve never sits straight on your shoulder from the neckline. You always want to give it just a little bit of depth. And what I have is about 1.25 inches coming from the neckline. And as I said again, my ruler was upside down, so I want at least 5 inches there. So I have about 5, And so you can always cut back some when you're getting ready to do your sleeve. You can always open it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissor and I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my shoulder across. So this is my shoulder seam. Just going to cut it a little bit above that because I need some seam allowance, okay? And so as you can see here, we have our 4 inches there, 4 1/4. So I'm just going to take another little bit of snip right here along there. And then it should equal to about 5 now. Yep, so it's 5. As you can see there, it's 5. It's 5 inches across. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut in my few inches here to create my armhole. And as I'm cutting my armhole, I'm going to cut it in the circular motion, okay? Now you can clearly see my neckline, my shoulder seam, my armhole. So now we move over to the side of the kimono. And what I'm going to do here is I measured as far as I could to the seam, to the selvage end. And so my measurement here from the armhole is going to be about 13.5. So I'm going to go ahead and cut across, and you need a diagonal line. So I'm just going to cut a little bit above, about 1/4 above that marking. And as I'm preparing here to preparing to finish, okay, and so then I come along the selvage end here, and I have just a little bit of fabric left on the end. So always make sure that your selvage end is even all the way across, because if not, you're going to run into error and you're going to have to go back and cut backwards, cutting in the depth of your whatever you desire. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting along the selvage edge here. And as I cut along this selvage end, I'm going to go ahead and stop. And so now I'm going to measure my neck length here along with my side seam. So I'm going to come all the way across because I want to go to my side over here. And so that's about 30.5. So now I'm going to measure down. And the normal front length of the body should be about 17 or 18. So this is probably about, let's see if we can get a measurement here, all the way across. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark here. And then I'm going to bring it, my ruler down, because I want to see how much of my front length, the top of the front length, if I was doing a simple bodice. So it's about 17 1/4. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure myself, my front center. So from my neckline to my abdomen is the 17. And so that's where I want my sleeve to start out with the cowl. I want to bring it down just a tad bit more. So I'm going to add about 3 more inches, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that 20 across, because what my desire is to have my cowl to start right along my waist. Okay, so I'm just going to come down just a little bit here to about 20.5, and I'm going to mark here, and then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go across. So as I'm going across, I'm just going to mark a little bit. Don't worry about your markings because this washes out, okay? So I'm just going to go across here, and I want to make sure that I'm marking. I'm going to just walk around on the other side here. And then I'm going to continue to mark my 3 inches. And so now I'm going to move my sleeve all the way down to here, my kimono, my cowl. And then I'm going to start to cut. And so as you can see right here, I had to create the curve in the kimono or kaftan or whatever you call it. And so I use this beautiful piece here. So what you do is that you come over here and you just start to mark right there. And then as you mark, you just go ahead and start cutting. Now, as far as the bottom goes, as far as my width goes down at the bottom length here, Okay, so I told you that it comes to 40 something. So what you want to do is draw your line straight across and then draw a 1/2 inch seam, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to serge this in and then fold it under, okay? So I've created my curve and it meets here. And so that's what you want to do with this tool here. Or you can take your lance ruler. And if you get into 9 right here, 9 is where it begins to curve. So 9 there, and then it curved down a little bit more, and then I flip my ruler over to finish drawing the remainder of my length, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and start to cut. And so as I prepare to cut here, I'm going to have a lot of fabric left, so I do need fabric for sleeves, right? So I'm just going to come down to there, and then I'll go up here, and then I'll start to cut my fabric here. So as I cut here, what I'm going to do is go ahead, and I have just, my fabric was not even, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut right here on my marking here. Okay, so, and as you notice, I didn't pin anything because this fabric is pretty steady. Okay, so now there is the sample pattern for the kimono sleeve. Now what I'm going to do with this bottom piece is I need to go ahead and create my sleeves. And so if I want 1/4 inch seams, I'm going to cut it this way. Otherwise, I'm just going to cut it the long way, the way that it is right now. What I need to do is go ahead and shape my sleeve. So what I'm going to do right here, since this is stretch fabric, I'm going to start on the end that's the shortest piece. So I'm going to feel under here and see which piece is my shortest piece. So my shortest piece starts there. So I'm just going to move this fabric on top, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut away the excess fabric. So as I cut away the excess fabric here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off right here. Cut off my excess fabric. Now, what I have left is 4 pieces here. Now, I can create my sleeve where it'll have a seam in it, and I think that's exactly what I'm going to choose to do, so that way I'm not wasting away anything. So for right now, since I cut there, I have to bring this up just a tad bit and start to cut off the excess because I moved it before I could cut it. So we always make it work. And because I'm cutting this sleeve the way that I'm cutting it, what I will end up doing is use 4 pieces to complete the sleeve. And so as I use the 4 pieces to complete the sleeve, what I'll do is just see how much I'm going to have left. And this makes just enough. Okay, and that's the basic design of the kimono sleeve. Thank you for watching.